Well, hi everyone. Welcome to another speedrun. We'll try to do better than in my last game I had where I lost. Make sure you like this video. Please subscribe. It does help a lot. Let's try to get to 100,000 subscribers one of these days. I like doing things snail pace. The idea of these videos, we're going to try to move up our rating to 2200, and we're looking at mistakes that both myself and my opponents play at this rating range, what you should be thinking and how you should be approaching the game. Now I'm switching up the opening. I'm playing the modern opening. This is a really dangerous opening for black and white, but you give away the center immediately. So you've got to play in a very cramped situation where you're waiting for your chance to counter-attack. It's a very counter-attacking opening as such. You know, you're waiting for generally white to do something and then your opportunity to come around their defenses. And you keep things very flexible. You've got to think about your pawn breaks. You've got to think about what sort of things you can allow and not allow, because you can't allow your opponent to get all the space. You can't castle too soon and get hit by bishop h6. So you've got to really adapt to what your opponent's doing. Now I would say stage one of this opening is you first of all fianchetto your bishop, and then you play this move. Now this move is quite handy because it gives you options of playing one of these pawn breaks later on. And generally you need to play a pawn break at some stage. But in the modern, and this is the modern opening, it's most important, I found, to really look at your opponent's setup and be able to respond. It's a very hard opening to learn. It's a lot harder than I think other openings because there's many different setups you've got to master. Now my opponent hasn't picked one of the most scariest ways of playing, and I can now go into a hippo, which I quite like, or I can now develop this knight. I normally delay developing this knight because I want to control h6 for bishop here ideas. But in this case, getting castled is okay because he hasn't picked one of the most dangerous setups, which is like pawn on f4 or bishop on e3, queen on d2. And it makes sense to me to castle and follow general principles. So my next idea is to castle, and then I can think about, let's do it, let's castle, and now I can think about how I'm going to get my final pieces in the game and what pawn breaks I'm going to play. And generally it's either this one or this one. These are the two pawn breaks you concentrate on. I'm thinking here, my opponent's gone again for a very nice and standard setup, that I'm going to go for the e5 move. c5 is also quite interesting. Now e5 at the moment might be playable because I have knight takes e4, but I'm going to bring my knight here first of all. I don't want to put it here because it blocks the bishop. If my opponent attacks my knight, okay, I was going to bring my knight back where I lose time, but having his pawn on this square, this is something I've seen Magnus Carlsen do, is a bit of a target because I can chip away at it with these kind of moves. My opponent may be preparing to push the pawn, so I'm going to continue with my plan of now getting a pawn into the center of the board, a bit like the black line now, a little bit, you know. You get this pawn here, I've defended it, so I'm getting some stake in the center. We're getting into the middle game now, and we're going to see how my opponent keeps developing. He can try to get his pieces to better squares. One idea is to bring this knight over here, like in the Ruy Lopez Spanish. He can try to gain space on this area of the board by pushing his pawns. And let's remember, at this kind of level, I think one of the most important things to bear in mind is just not just thinking about your own ideas, but you really, at this level, got to understand your opponent's ideas, stop his good ones, and be ready to encourage his bad ideas. That might sound a bit weird, but it's so important, you know, to start thinking in that way. Be ready for what he's going to move, and be ready for his plans, because then you can build up your whole understanding of chess. If you're thinking about what plans he might try and you have a good response already in the back of your mind, it's going to make things a lot easier. And look at this, my opponent showing some class there. He did exactly a brilliant move. That he did exactly to me what I wanted to do to my opponent. Great move. Why is this a great move? I have one piece that I hadn't got developed, and it's clear that the center is getting a bit more tension, especially on these two squares. What was the only move that I could do to increase the tension there? It was to bring the bishop out here, pinning the knight, maybe threatening to take the knight, and to start capturing in the center. So my opponent stops the possibility of me bringing the bishop there. I think that's a fantastic move. And this shows why at this level it's a step up from the 1700 level. So good move. Okay, now I have nothing immediate. I'm not going to worry about this bishop for the time being, because I might even want to put it this way. There's a couple of plans. I could start trying to get my knight to f4. That's a very direct plan, going for some kingside attack. But I'm going to play a move which gains me some space on the other side of the board, and is a useful move, I feel, in these positions, because that stops b4, which you might want to do, and it just gives me a little bit of area. Now my opponent has played this, and this I don't like from my opponent's point of view. He had all this nice tension in the center, and he's released it straight away. Now, it's not a terrible move. The computer might agree with this move. I'm actually going to move it. Where do I move the knight? Now, moving it back here looks wrong, but I've got to think of the best route for the future. Where's it going on this square? It doesn't really have anywhere in the future it can go to. On the other hand, here, it can aim for this square, which is much nicer. And we can now see that my knight will get this square. So I'm just making sure my knight goes on the right route, has the right future. We go into a King's Indian defense position now. And you can see how useful this pawn is. That space gaining move has ensured my knight will at least stay there for a little bit. But I've got to think what my opponent's going to try to do. He might try to go here and here. So I could try to get a4 in. But we have a standard King's Indian defense structure now. And the main move you've got to try to play in this position is f5. So I need to get my knight out the way. I'm going to try to get my knight into here. This is the most aggressive square. And at some point, make way for the f-pawn. Okay, so my opponent playing very quickly. Now, this bishop is not a very good bishop, because it's blocked in by the pawn at the moment. So I'm just going to offer the exchange. Just see what he does, because I feel the exchange will help me. Okay, I'm going to come back, offer the exchange again. And of course, now we don't want to get a draw. So we will just play f6. Nothing wrong with this move at all, because our pawn is coming to this square anyway. Now my opponent wants to take this knight off, but he's going to be getting a lot of queenside play here. I'm not too worried about this one. Now the only thing I'm a little bit concerned about f5 is something like takes, and the knight coming in to here. Now I think I'm going to continue by bringing my knight to f4, because that knight over there was a target. And on this square, we start getting a little bit of pressure. Okay, now, I don't necessarily mind him taking here. I can consider this move, f5, immediately now. Let's have a look. Pawn takes, my bishop releases, and my knight is secure. I'm starting to like this. If I go here, he takes. I take here, unleashing the rook, winning material. So I can now continue in very standard fashion with f5, which I'm going to do. Okay, he immediately takes that one off. I have to recapture. There's no point thinking. Now, am I losing a pawn here? Well, it's quite possible I'm going to be losing a pawn with something like this, but we should be able to get enough counterplay somehow. So queen d6, I'm not too worried about this pawn. I need to get my attack going. Do I take here first? Okay, let's take here first, more because I want to open up the f-file, and he was going to capture on e5. So I can go b6, saving my pawn now, and I probably should have a little bit of respect for that guy. None of these sacrifices are working. If they were, I'd be playing it. Does this sacrifice work? No, let's not give a pawn away for free. And now he wants to come in here. I think that's pretty irrelevant. I think he should have been trying to play d6 there. So, what next? I like my bishop. So, I would need to start attacking him over here. So, how are we going to increase that? Now, bishop h6 is an interesting, but it might just be a one-move idea. Now, do I want to exchange these light square bishops off? I'm thinking I might even do this now. because I'm only going to use this bishop for the sacrifice, but it's not working. And this way I can connect my rooks. Let's try to get this rook over. My knight is very good. Maybe a pretty balanced position here at the moment, I'd say. And I didn't really want to exchange his bishops off because I didn't think his bishop was that great. And I wanted to have chances to sacrifice here, but I now have chances to bring my queen in here. Okay, he is finding the right plan. Do we now consider this? Now this move is the right plan, but I have c6. Okay, let's bring the last rook in. I want to defend this pawn. And if d6, I've got to keep things as close as I can with c6. He's still not committing. And this is really now starting to look more and more playable. But the problem is, if everything gets captured there, he has knight here and his queen is there. So what's his idea here? This is where I'm saying you might want to encourage your opponent's bad ideas. Is his idea to come here? Well, first of all, one move that's always annoying is his knight coming in here. And I'm going to just put a pawn here because I can't see what is... Oh, no, he wants to play this one and then come here. Okay, well, let's go a4. Stop that queen's coming in here. See where his queen's going to go. Because if he brings his queen further away from that area of the board, it could get risky. Any tactics on this diagonal? I don't think so. Let's play this anyway. I want to take this possibility away because that's annoying even when I sacrifice here. Now, can I sacrifice here now? Takes, takes, takes. He still moves his knight. So I could try to increase more pressure. Do I bring the queen over? Do I try to bring the rook into a better square? How do we play this? Nope, let's try to bring the pawn up. Okay, so I've got now a little hook here. So he defends against that little idea. Good idea. And now I'm going to try and improve my rooks. Let's try to get both rooks. I'm going to have to speed up a little bit. He's playing very well, my opponent. Both rooks on this file. Okay, let's keep some tension on that area of the board. Now, my bishop is a bad piece. Can I do anything with that? I can't see. But he has now allowed me to play this move, whereas knight's going to centralize. But maybe my bishop can find a little bit more life over here. Have I allowed this move? I've just allowed this. But I was thinking rook f5. No, it is okay because I had rook f5. Good. Okay, so now my bishop's going to try and find a better diagonal because he has more pieces on this diagonal. And I'm trying to now... I'm concentrating. I've got to keep things closed. This is the only way to keep things closed on the area of the board where he's strongest. And I've got to try to break through with stuff like this now. My pieces are ready for the attack. Okay, let's gain some time on the queen side. We capture. And I've got to keep pushing now. My queen side is pretty bad. Positionally, it's pretty bad because all things could be dropping over here. I'm not going to defend anymore. We're just going to attack full speed ahead. But once he takes here, his knight's coming in. Can I generate enough attacking power on the other area of the board after this move? What do I play? So we need to look at moves like this, but then knight takes. His knight's coming here. His knights are very well positioned here, aren't they? This one is rubbish, I feel. And... Okay, I need to get my queen to a better square. So, but am I allowing this pawn too much? I think I'm in a bit of trouble here, guys. I'm going to go all in. I've got to try to get my pieces all around his king side and go for a desperate attack. Actually, this is a great move because if rook takes, he comes here. Fuck. Missed this move. Missed this move. Is there anything I can do there? I have to give up my queen. Only thing. I totally missed that move. Well played from my opponent. Knight takes c5. And, yeah, we're going to have another loss here. Can you believe it? My opponent played very well. Outplayed me in the middle part of the game there. And is there any hope after this? I don't see it. We're still materialistically maybe doing right, but that is the killer. And he's still taking pieces. There's no tricks here, is there? Can't see any tricks. The position is crumbling more and more here. And now he's going to take here at the right time. He can take my piece with check. Okay, well, let's have a little look at that in game review, shall we? Just see how Oh, we do have the accuracy level now. Can we call it? Can we call it? I think we can call it. I think we can call it. My opponent was either playing a genius game or a cheat. Simple as that, isn't it? But in actual fact, it was quite interesting. We'll report him. We'll get him banned. And I know a lot of you saying, oh, no, you shouldn't play these cheats. You have to be more careful who you play. It's still fine playing these cheats quite handy. We still get a good lesson. And the other thing is it will keep my rating. Well, I'll get the points back. This guy clearly a cheat. I thought he was playing a bit too well. 95%. He was throwing in probably the odd inaccuracy there to get to basically try to make it look not iffy, but complete cheat is all we're going to say. And I do get angry about them. Why do they bother doing it? It's weird, but we've had this discussion lots of times before. But it was an interesting battle all round, and I don't think I did too much wrong there, except I lost a bit of tension and let him get a bit too much play, didn't I? I mean, some of his moves a human just wouldn't play. For example, this move C4. Well, I don't know. He played this really quickly. The computer gives it as an accuracy, but just very, very suspicious. And he played offering the draw. This is only the kind of thing that he's trying to do to throw stuff in there. But I'm gonna call a cheat. I think he's clearly a cheat there. So we'll get the points back. We'll face it again, but still quite an interesting game, I think. And I just didn't manage to get enough play later on in the game there. And if we go around to here, this is where I probably needed to change tactics. But I mean, was this bishop d7 right? Maybe this bishop d7, because this was the one thing I'm not too sure about. I really wanted to sacrifice. Didn't seem to be working. Maybe I should have kept the bishops on and played here. This would have been... Yeah, I think I might need this piece later on for some kind of attack over there. I might even have ideas of queen c8 and then taking here. This is much better. So again, even when you lose to a computer, you've got to think where you kind of sometimes know where you've gone wrong, even without checking. And I kind of felt this exchange of light square bishops. I need this bishop to be able to sacrifice over here. And by moving the bishop and trying to get double power over there with my knight here, this would have been a very exciting game. Okay, well, thanks. Do like and subscribe. We will report this guy and get his account closed down. Too high an accuracy over those many moves at this rating level, I feel. Could be wrong, but I'm never normally wrong because I'm a bloody Grandmaster, even though I was wrong in this game because I got beat. Like and subscribe, my friends.